So we're going to put the mixture back into the saucepan as I burn myself. Welcome to Controller to Kitchen, where we cook from nerdy cookbooks. Now this is a new series that I am currently experimenting with. I'm still figuring out the camera angles and the audio, so please let me know in the comments if there's anything I can do to improve that. Since this is my first episode, and I'm a Halo channel, I'm going to start with the Halo Cookbook, which, if you didn't know, I actually reviewed this book on my channel about a year ago, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. Now we're going to make the chocolate cream pie recipe. So the first thing we need to do is make the crust for this. Now this is a chocolate graham cracker crust. So I'm going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. And while we do that, we're going to make the crust. Now, this calls for chocolate graham crackers, which I could not find normal chocolate graham crackers. I had to find Teddy Grahams. So I'm going to hope this works. We'll find out. I'm sure it's going to be fine, but if nowhere around me has chocolate graham crackers. At least not the rectangle ones, which is what I was looking for. So to do this, we're going to need a food processor so that we can take the graham crackers and, pulverize them. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Now the recipe calls for a fine crumb, so these are going to be very fine. And obviously this is going to be very loud, so I'm going to turn down the audio. So this looks pretty fine to me. We are going to be going a little bit more because we're going to be mixing in the butter and the salt. So to this, we are adding 5.5 tablespoons of unsalted butter and 1 teaspoon of salt. And then it just says to pulverize this together. Doesn't have us cut the butter into chunks or anything. Just pulse together until combined. It doesn't say to soften the butter, so yeah. I mean, it's doing it. It's just not. It's not quite going as I expected it to. I ate a few of these Teddy Grahams before I started recording, and now I kind of want an entire box to myself because this smells really, really good. I don't really want to add more butter. I mean, it's combined. Doesn't really tell me what the texture of this should be other than combined. It's still very dry. Or it looks very dry. Yeah, this is my former crust. So let's actually try to make this crust. Now, the recipe doesn't say to grease the pan. I'm honestly a little bit worried about doing that. Or about not greasing it. We're going to go with not greasing. This is a glass pan, so we're going to hope for the best here. So, just get this out of here. Yeah, so it just says transfer to pie pan and press into the bottom and sides to form an even layer. So that's what we're going to do. And I guess we're about to find out if this is too dry. I can see the butter. Yeah, so it's definitely making a mess. I will say this is not forming the most solid crust, which I'm a little bit worried about. But I've also made the mistake before trying to make a pie like this, where it wasn't forming a solid crust, and then I just kept adding butter. And then when I went to go eat it, and my friends went to go eat it, the crust was basically butter. I'm also a big believer in the first time I cook a recipe, unless I feel like something is obviously wrong, just going with what the recipe says. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't give any guidance as to what this is supposed to be. I've never actually made a graham cracker crust like this. I've made other crusts from like cookies before, but never graham crackers. I just don't know Well, we just bought it, but this one called for chocolate, and so there we got the crust made. We're still waiting for the oven to preheat. Okay, so the oven is finished preheating. I'm gonna put this in the oven. This has to cool completely, really, before I can go to the next step. So, yeah. And I will see you in 15 minutes. So we're gonna check on the pie now. So I'm not going to poke it too much, but this does seem pretty solid. I was thinking I might have screwed up the sides a little bit. So this now needs to cool or this needs to completely cool before I can work on the filling. Because the filling goes into this after I cook it on the stovetop, and then it doesn't cook again. So I want this to be ready for me to pour the custard in. So we're just going to wait, and I will see you when this thing is cool again, and then we're starting the filling. So the pie crust has fully cooled. So now it's time to move on to the actual custard. Now this is the bulk of the recipe. So we're going to start with cutting up this chocolate. Now this needs 8 ounces of bittersweet chocolate, and I just need to chop it up. This is going to melt, so it doesn't need like, I don't think I need to go too crazy with it. So we're just going to chop this up a little bit. Definitely say I don't have the best chopping skills. Not the worst I've seen. Especially this. This is kind of weird. Like, this is just kind of causing a mess. But we're going to do our best. Kind of wonder if I should just put this in the food processor for, a second. Part of me wonders if I should have just done this off camera. Because this is kind of bad. So now we're actually going to move on to making the custard. I mean, this is part of the custard. But we're going to move on to the actual part of the custard here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to combine the egg yolks, cornstarch, and some of the milk. So I'm going to be using a really large bowl here because we're going to be tempering this later. So we're going to be combining 5 egg yolks. Didn't use it there. 1/4 cup of cornstarch and 1/4 cup of milk. Now it just says combine and set aside. So I do think I should probably mix it a little bit. I'm going to. So I'm just going to set that aside. Now we're going to move on to the rest of the custard. So for this, we need a saucepan. Now this is a large saucepan, but I feel like this is probably going to be just the perfect size. So in here, we're putting in the rest of the milk. One and a 1/4 cup heavy cream. 1/4 cup sweetened condensed milk. In here, we have 1/2 cup of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Espresso powder, which I was actually a little bit torn about this one. I kind of want to see if I could figure out how to use actual espresso because I have a nice espresso machine and I use really good beans. So using powder kind of seemed like I'm not getting the best I could, but because I'm not adding water, I wasn't really sure how best to put it in. So I'm just following the recipe. Maybe if I make this again, I'll try to use real espresso. And then the chocolate. This is going to cause an absolute mess trying to do this, but we're going to try. Okay, so we're going to heat this over medium-high heat and bring to a simmer. Then once we bring it to a simmer, we will start to temper the eggs. Okay, so this is not quite simmering, but it's also being a little bit weird, and I'm a little worried about burning the chocolate at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and move this over, and we're gonna start the tempering process. And I'm gonna hope that I don't regret doing that. We're just gonna use the same whisk. So I'm actually pretty scared of this step. I have never done tempering before. And anytime I've seen it on a video or something, it seems very problematic. So I'm really hoping I don't make scrambled chocolate eggs. Yeah. So we're gonna we're gonna try our best here. So the directions that this book has me follow is take half a cup of the cream mixture into the bowl with the egg yolks, whisk together, and then repeat until I've mixed in about half of the heated mixture into the bowl. So we're just gonna try this and hope for the best. The cornstarch has started to attach to the bottom, so I'm just breaking that up a little bit. There we go. So we're going to start really slowly here. Just going to speed up because I think we're past the point of needing to worry too much. Yeah, no scrambled eggs. So then we're just going to keep going with this mixture. I don't quite know why I'm doing so much. Maybe I could shock the eggs once I get in there. But I think 2 more scoops and I'm probably going to be good. I think that's good. So let me just get everything off of here. So we're going to put the mixture back into the saucepan as I burn myself until it thickens. And then we're just going to whisk it. So now it just says to whisk it until it thickens for about 5 minutes. So we're just going to set a timer here. I'm just going to lower the heat a little bit. But it's only been about a minute, and it's already, you can already feel it getting thick. It's kind of already at the pudding stage. It's being thick enough now that it's definitely becoming a bit of a workout. But I'm happy that it's getting thicker, which means that I probably didn't screw something up. So just past 3-minute mark, and it's definitely pretty thick. Thick enough that I have to hold the pan now as I'm whisking. My arm hurts. I don't do this often, so this is a workout. It's definitely like a thick pudding, almost like a mousse a little bit here. Okay, so we're at 5 minutes. I'm gonna take it off the heat. Let's bring it over here. Now we're gonna mix in 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Looks a little bit oily now because of the butter, I think. Not as thick as it was, but I mean, that's to be expected. We just added some butter. Hopefully it solidifies as it cools. Okay, now with the fun part. That is pouring this in the pan. Okay. That came out in more of a blob than I kind of expected it to. So that was a little weird. But there we have we have this. We have the custard in the pan with the graham cracker crust. So this is going to go into the fridge for 4 hours, or it's going to cool first. Then I'm going to put it into the fridge for 4 hours. After that, we have one more step to do, and then we can finally see how this pie is going to be. Okay, so it's morning now instead of 4 hours later. So it actually was in the fridge overnight. I really just didn't feel like doing this at midnight. So as you can see here, the butter didn't fully mix in, but it is still solid. So I'm just gonna roll with it and gonna hope it's still fine. I think that not doing it on the oven or not doing it on heat was probably my problem. But at this point, unless I remake the entire thing, there's nothing I can do about it. So we're gonna roll with it, and it's probably still gonna be fine. So for this last step, we are making the whipped cream that's gonna go on top of the pie. So for this, we're gonna use my stand mixer. In here is gonna go a cup of heavy cream. And in here, I have a tablespoon of powdered sugar and a pinch of salt. I should lift it. And then we're just going to mix until it makes stiff peaks. Now, I have never made stiff peaks before, so we're going to hope for the best. So let's check this mixture. That's definitely not stiff peaks. I can already tell just before you pull it out. I'd say that's pretty... Yeah, I think it's probably about what we want. Okay. Now we're going to bring the pie back up. And we're just going to top the pie with this. Nothing too crazy. That thing looks pretty good. So the recipe doesn't say it, but the picture shows putting chocolate shavings on top. I don't have any more chocolate shavings. I used all of it in the pie itself. Um, that's my bad. But yeah, so we're done with the pie. So now let's cut into the pie and see how it is. Definitely feels solid. So a little bit worried about that graham cracker crust. So we'll see how that comes out here in just a minute. Definitely a little bit crumbly. And there we have it. We have our slice of chocolate cream pie from the Halo Cookbook. Now, the moment that I've been waiting for. Let's actually try this thing. Okay, that's really good. It almost has a fudge-like texture to it. I don't know if that's because the butter didn't mix in properly. Um, but this is almost more like a chocolate fudge cake, I would think. I was expecting more of a pudding-like texture. Um, but that's really good. And I want to eat this entire slice. I want to eat this entire pie, but it's 9 a.m. uh, I should not eat this entire thing for breakfast. But this was incredible. Obviously, like it'd be nice if I had the chocolate shavings on top, but that would really just add to the look of it. It wouldn't really change the flavor at all. My whipped cream looks a little bit different than the whipped cream in the book, but delicious either way. I'm definitely curious to try this again and get the butter properly incorporated. This was definitely a fun episode, and my first episode of Controller in the Kitchen. So Again, like I said in the beginning, please let me know in the comments if there's some way that I can improve this. I'm going to be experimenting again with my next videos. Also, just let me know if you enjoyed this. I have a ton of these nerdy cookbooks, so I have a lot of recipes to pull from for this. And I have some cool ideas if people are interested. Definitely let me know. If you have a recipe that you want to see me make or a book you want me to check out, let me know in the comments. And if you did enjoy this video or you just want to see me cook some more stuff, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you next time.